Bonjour, buongiorno. Welcome everyone to the closing conference of the second annual Canada-Italy Forum on Artificial Intelligence. My name is Teoli and I will be your host again this morning. Following on the heels of the opening conference and the thematic workshops of yesterday, our speakers today will continue to address the broader issues of AI, such as big data. We will hear from the rapporteurs, who will provide summaries of the workshops and their perspectives on emerging trends. And as always, we want to focus on possible areas of collaboration that conferences like this promote. In order to get through our agenda for the morning, I wish to remind the speakers once again to please respect their allotted time. Also, I'd like to remind you to mute your microphones. I hear some background noise, so if you can please mute your microphones. There is no interference for the current speaker. So take a look on your screen, please mute the microphone. Lastly, we encourage you to share your comments and impressions on social media using the hashtag AIForum2020. Let's begin. To open our session this morning, I am very pleased to introduce Hubert Bolduc, President d'Investissement International. Monsieur Bolduc.
Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Merci beaucoup pour cette présentation. Je salue la présence de la consul et aussi de notre délégué, Marianna. Donc, bonjour tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. I've looked at the 2-3 days you've had of presentation, and it's quite impressive. Obviously, I've seen the people who were speaking, and I'm pretty sure that at the end of this meeting, there's not much you will not know about AI, and especially know about the importance of AI in Quebec, and especially in Montreal. At Investissement Québec, our role is to help attract organizations in many sectors, many fields, but obviously AI has been a very important one of them. And as a proof of this, if you look at the last 2 to 3 years, we've been able to attract in Montreal all the big names in artificial intelligence, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. As a matter of fact, we've attracted for over 750 million in business labs and AI labs in the past 3 years. So, and again, I know a lot has been said about this over the course of the last days, so I won't repeat them. Our organization is responsible for helping organizations set up in Quebec, again, in AI or in any other related fields. The reasons Montreal has been so popular is because of a few key factors, and the most important one is definitely talent. Great universities, great talent pool, amazing research, and also an interesting ecosystem that most of the representatives of this ecosystem has been addressing you words over the last days. So the other aspect is that we are also responsible for helping companies export, and so people or organizations that come here for sure enjoy the ecosystem, but also are very happy to see that organizations like Investissement Québec are there to support them on the export side. So I wish you a very good last day. I hope you will enjoy the conferences. I hope that you are now fully aware or more aware of the great things that are being done in Quebec in artificial intelligence. And Mrs. Speaker, I will hand it back to you. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Bolduc, et merci d'avoir pris le temps d'être parmi nous ce matin. The next portion of a conference is a panel discussion on the many uses of big data. So among our panelists are Patrizio Bianchi, Scientific Director, International Foundation, Big Data and Artificial Intelligence, Antonio Zoccoli, Vice President, Big Data Association, Marco Vianello, Manager of International Projects for Infocamere, and Enrico Cremonese, Director of Ivado Labs here in Quebec. So if Mr. Bianchi, you would like to start the discussion, please.
Yeah, starting my speech, let me thank you, all of you, to organize this conference this year. I have very clear in my mind the conference that we had last year in September, and I remember that last year we promised to organize our activity in order to create the conditions to have a continuous, stable cooperation among us. This is exactly what we have done in last year. In this very difficult year, we have organized, working all together, this International Foundation, Big Data and Artificial Intelligence for Human Development. This results from the very strong and deep cooperation among the public institutions. We have organized, as Region Emilia-Romagna, all these institutions in the Big Data Association. Professor Zoccoli later on can explain the different activities of this association. That is the 4 universities of Emilia-Romagna and the largest research institutions that are present in the region. On the other side, this association decided to move to involve in this cooperation also all the big national companies. And they all together created this foundation. ENI for energy, Enel for electric powers, Telecom for TLC, Leonardo Finmeccanica for space, aerospace and production. And finally, also Atos, that is the European big data provider. All these actors all together decided to invest in this International Foundation Big Data Artificial Intelligence for Human Development, essentially to stress this effect, this idea that all these instruments have to face the big transformation that we have in our future. That is environmental transition, energy transition, the management of all that big environmental problems connected with meteor change, climate change. I have to remember that the regional government, the national government, and the European Commission invested massively in Bologna because they created this huge technopole essentially concentrated in big data, because we have concentrated in Bologna all the largest facilities in Italy, the facility of Cineca, that is the national consortium among all the universities of the country, the National Institute of Nuclear Physics, that is chaired by Professor Zoccoli, that is here in this conference, the National Institute for Astrophysics and Geophysics, the National Research Council, that I am honored to be in the board of directors, and all the others, the National Energy Agency. All these actors are concentrated in Bologna, the supercomputer facility. And the European authorities concentrated in Bologna also the supercomputer facility of the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting that at this moment is in Britain. Recently, the Commission decided also to invest in Bologna to establish the center of the high-performing computing called Leonardo, that is the largest machine that is present in Europe. All these activities, nevertheless, required to have a vision of the future, require that we have a vision of the future, require the idea that we have to find applications for the possibility of humanity to not only to survive, to have a sustainability, but also to regenerate our society. In this context, I feel that one possibility to cooperate is to work on these issues. And I'm very happy to offer to the institution in Canada to be involved in our activities. We will very, very happy if you consider the possibility to intervene in this foundation. If you consider the possibility also to send somebody in our scientific committee. We are now establishing an international scientific committee with people coming from all the world working in this area, but I am very, very happy about the idea that we are here to speak about the future in this dramatic situation that we are living. But for this reason, my proposal is that we take in consideration our proposal to enter in this foundation. This could be the way that the region of Emilia-Romagna proposed in order to establish a continuous, fruitful cooperation among us. I think that Professor Zoccoli now can explain also what our research centers are doing. But consider that the possibility to have this bridge, this stable bridge among us in science and technology, in big data and artificial intelligence is much more than our own interest. Is in the interest of developing our society. Thank you so much.
Grazie, Professore Bianchi. We will hear now from Professor Antonio Zoccoli.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all of you for the invitation and organization of this very important meeting, and good morning to everybody. So just to continue the discussion which was started by Professor Bianchi, I would like just to briefly summarize the activities we are doing in Italy, and in particular in the region Emilia-Romagna. As Professor Bianchi was explaining, we started a few years ago taking into account the fact that in the next years the world will provide an unprecedented amount of data, and we need to be ready to store, analyze, and use this data. The country and the institution which will be available, will be able to do this, will be the winner in the next years. So, taking this into account, with the help of Region Emilia-Romagna, we decided to act into different directions. The first one was to build up a very big computing center. So the Tecnopolo, which was mentioned before, is an area in Bologna where will be host the ECMWF computing center for the medium forecast, weather forecast. Then the computing center of and the next machine of Cineca is a parallel machine, one of the biggest in the world, which will be installed next year, and the data center of INFN, the National Institute for Nuclear Physics, which is analyzing and storing the data, for example, produced at CERN of Geneva, the big international lab where the Higgs boson was discovered. In parallel, we also decided to put together all the expertise we had in this area. So expertise which are going from the computing science and the capability to run a data center to the capability to analyze big data sample, to have skill on deep learning, machine learning, or artificial intelligence, and high broadband network. So these were the two directions where we started, and since then we have built up this association, the Big Data Association of Emilia-Romagna, which is including all the university of the region, all the research institutions. So apart INFN, we have the National Institute for Astrophysics, the CNR, which is the Center for National Research, and ENEA, and all the national institutions for research. And we started to put together all the capability we had, all the skills we had, and we started a project like how do you say, test bed in order to prove to the private investors that this was an option for the future. This is a possibility. So we started programs like some of them financed by European Community, for example, to prove that we can improve the industrial production by using, for example, predictive maintenance, by using artificial intelligence and supercomputer in order to improve the functioning of the different industrial plants, or to optimize the production of the different in the different phases. And we act this on the industrial side. This is Industry 4.0, but we have many other activities, for example, on material science, on agri-food and precise agriculture, on digital enabling technology, on earth science and climate change, on global science and economies, and of course on health and life science. We made many contributions during this outbreak on COVID-19, and there are many projects which were born in this area, which are running in this moment. And of course, apart that, which is the part of the activity which is involved also the private sector, we have our let's say, normal activity of research from university and from the research institution, which are looking trying to answer the basic question of science, so how the universe was born, the evolution of the universe, the matter, the antimatter production, and so on. So there are many activities which are going in parallel, and I think that the important part is that we are really creating an ecosystem in Regione Emilia-Romagna and also in Italy. And I think that in this period and in this historical moment, I think the collaboration between the different institutions and between the different regions and between the different nations. So this is very important in this context, this meeting. The collaboration is a must. I think that if we really want to make a step forward in this field and in economy, we need to collaborate. So as Professor Bianchi was saying before, I think that there are many fields, many topics where we may build up a collaboration with Quebec and with Canada, and to collaborate together, putting together the skill and the capability we have, and to share the result. I think this will be a very important step forward for our community and for our nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Zoccoli. And now we will hear from Marco Vianello.
Thank you. I have a few slides. Can we just... Yeah, excellent. Okay. Can we just go to the next one? Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Let me very quickly introduce Infocamere. Infocamere is a public company, an Italian public company, completely owned by the Chamber of Commerce. On the slide, you can see a few figures. Our job basically is to foster, support companies and the whole economic system. Our main achievement is the National Business Register, which we manage and we keep up and running. Our head office is in Rome. Our data center is actually in Padova, up in the north. We have more than 1,000 employees. But basically, our mission is to provide services to our shareholders, Chamber of Commerce, to the Italian companies, and more generally, to the whole national and international economy. And of course, our main service is to run the business register on behalf of the chambers. Next one, please. The National Business Register is the official source of information related to companies in Italy. Every bit of this information has been checked, certified by either Chamber of Commerce or the Italian professionals. The register holds data and information of about 6 million companies and 10 million people. That makes this register the largest register in Europe. Information retrievable goes from shareholders to annual accounts, directors to extraordinary procedures, and many others. The register, therefore, is a huge database, a real big data, and it's always up to date, and it plays a strategic role in the national economy. It provides transparency to the market, making available to everyone a specific set of information, which, by the way, is legally binding. Next one, please. And the website, this one is one of the way we provide transparency to the market, a website where anyone can get connected to and where anyone can get hold of the information about every single company in Italy. Obviously, the website is in English as well as the piece of information you get hold of, just to make sure that everyone from everywhere in the world can reach the Italian economic information. This is the place, basically, where anyone looking for business in Italy, collaboration, cooperation with Italian companies, looking for partners, customers, providers should go. I won't spend too much time in saying that, you know, the website is only one of the ways to disseminate information, the easiest one probably. But we provide many other different services to companies, to distributors. We have more than 100 distributors in Italy, and to public administration. This is quite important, as all the public authorities involved with business in Italy refers to us to get information about the economic trends and analysis. But anyway, this is the classic way of providing information, and we have been doing it for, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years now. Next. Part of our mission is getting started from the management of the National Business Register to provide innovative, advanced services to support our partners, meeting the needs of companies, of course, professional citizens, in a context of long-lasting, evolving economic system. Therefore, we test, we explore, we eventually design and develop solutions to simplify basically the relationship between companies and public administration, and to support the positive condition for business. This is why we have been testing blockchain, for example, new disruptive technology. But we have been testing the artificial intelligence as well, the machine learning process that helps a totally new data processing technique. And all these have come very handy over the 10, 12 months when, you know, such a big event like the COVID-19 has struck the whole world, the international economy, driving the whole world to a so-called new normal. Let me show you a few examples. The next slide, please. The use of machine learning techniques applied to the business register allow us to give a whole another value to raw data, allow us to refine the raw data, to find information that matter, present them in an easy to read way or easier to read way, and make them available. For example, we can take the revenues of a group of companies and classify the revenues by region, which, you know, was quite hard to do, as, you know, such data come from the notes of the financial statements, not from the, you know, the figures and the numbers. Or we can analyze the e-commerce by commodities sectors. Basically, we can go deeper in the analysis, much deeper than before, with a reasonably small effort. Shall we call it small? I'm not really sure that it is the right word, but with a reasonable effort. Next slide. As a business register, as a national business register, we received every year almost 4 million files. 1 million is related to the annual accounts. We received 1 million annual accounts every year. And we have 3 million files related to brand new information or updated information. Obviously, every file is sorted, categorized. So these 4 million files we received every year is a massive database. And by, you implementing the advanced analytics techniques to those files and the predictive algorithms, we can actually monitor the economy dynamism, foresee the peaks and spikes, predict the drops. Let me show you very quickly a chart that comes very handy when we want to check the effect that COVID-19 has and probably will have on the economy. Yeah, that one. This is the number of information filed during the first 6 months of 2020, right when the COVID-19 hit the Italian country. Until the beginning of February, the trend are pretty normal, but then the number of incorporation, which is the blue line, drops dramatically in connection with the COVID. Generally speaking, every kind of communication to the business register fall down. Only one kind of communication doesn't fall, and in actual fact, it rises, and it's the change of activity communication. I mean, when the government, the Italian government, forced the closure of the non-essential activities, companies tried to remain operative, to remain open, basically to stay alive, changing their activity, moving, shifting from what they used to do to what was considered essential, okay? And they filed that change of activity communication to the business register. Next one, please. The last example I would like to share with you is the one related to the policymaker that has the need to check the current situation, possibly the economic situation, and implement a specific policy and monitor the outcomes of that policy. The advanced analytics technique allow us to analyze the situation in deep, highlighting where the policymaker has to step in. And the dashboard that we provide them will help the policymaker to implement the most appropriate approach. And machine learning techniques applied to the historical data allow us to forecast the result of the policy. Next slide, please. Just to give you an example, this is a dashboard that we provide to a local administrator in Sardinia a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, actually. I will not go into too much details, even because it's in Italian, but basically what we did was we provided the public officer with this dashboard that analyzed the effect of a specific policy implemented over a number of 94 local companies and compared them to a different group of around 100 companies that did not take part to the policy. Well, not only the officer did produce an accurate forecasting, but even the actuals were extremely successful. Next one, please. And this is my last slide. So in the end, let me say that I guess we are more than ready to give data a whole new value. With a combination of machine learning, data processing technique, we refine data to find information that matters, make it available to whoever has to make a decision, in particular for us, to public policy makers. And over the last 12 months, this process has speeded up dramatically, as probably the level of knowledge that we are used to might not be quite enough anymore. I mean, the new normal we are heading to requires possibly the usage of all these techniques to make sure that we can properly analyze it, model it. Let me highlight finally that, as it is written on the slide, data are really the future gold mine. But data have to be checked, reviewed, certified possibly. The quality of the information, even raw information, is absolutely strategic. And this is where the National Business Register can really make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Signor Vianello. We'll now hear from Enrico Cremonese.
So thank you to the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada for having me here today, and hello everybody. It's a pleasure being with you here today. And I think that the topic that we're addressing, so shared development and collaboration strategies, is one that is really one that is close to my heart, because it applies to my day-to-day work and not only informs my way of working, but also my way of thinking. If we could go to the next slide. Before I delve into the content of today, I just wanted to give a brief overview of who Ivado Labs is. Founded in 2017 by Hélène Desmarais and Andrea Lodi from the University of Bologna, Ivado Labs bridges the gap between fundamental research and applied AI. What we do is that we co-develop solutions with our clients, and these range from machine learning to operations research to image recognition across a different number of sectors. Today, we have approximately 100 employees between data scientists, data engineers, and business experts, as well as scientific advisors. And that makes us one of the leading AI solution suppliers in Canada. If we could go to the next slide. So when thinking about this panel, three main thoughts came to mind. The first one has to do with the cooperation, the inherent cooperative nature of AI in and of itself. So when companies want to develop a project, it has to be collaborative. Obviously, the ability to work and operate in an AI ecosystem is also critical and enables collaboration across different actors and stakeholders, from governments to companies to academia. And this also fosters the ability of small and medium enterprises to be involved in projects and to access resources and capabilities that they might not have access to. So if we could go to the next slide. In order to succeed, if you think about it, AI is inherently collaborative in nature, right? When we work on projects, or when your company is working on a project, you have to involve different teams, starting from the business units that identify and develop a problem or a use case to be solved, to the collaboration of additional data experts, data stewards, as well as architects, and a whole slew of data scientists that will build those building blocks required for an AI model. So it really requires a concerted effort within the company. The reality is that, however, many companies will also require and leverage the support of external parties. And so when we engage with some of our partners in projects to deliver AI solutions, we try to think and approach this as one team. And this is what I would encourage any company embarking on an AI journey to do. So what I mean by one team is the ability to integrate and to co-develop an AI solution by matching the company's employees or your employees with those experts in AI to come up with a shared solution. And this will generate two benefits, I find. The first one is that your employees will feel empowered by working hand in hand with AI experts and have that knowledge transferred, or that upskilling, if you will, which is critical for their own development. And the second one, which is a benefit for the company, is that you'll be able to evolve and maintain the solution even without the support of these external partners, and therefore make it much more self-sustaining going forward. If we could go to the next slide. As I was mentioning, obviously, the expression goes that it takes a village. And so companies that try to develop AI solutions do not operate in a vacuum. And the ability to collaborate in an AI ecosystem that is structured is something that is really important. So when I think about the Canadian and Quebec and Montreal AI ecosystem in particular, I think that we have an example of an ecosystem which is really remarkable, where different levels of government, from national to provincial to local, have come together with industry players as well as university and academia to really foster innovation and make it something that is implementable. So if you're a company today looking to develop an AI project, you could reach out to Scale AI, which is the AI supply chain supercluster, in order to get some co-financing that ranges anywhere between 40 and 50% of your project costs. The additional value that Scale AI does within the context of our ecosystem is that it will also branch out and connect the company looking to implement an AI project to reach AI experts and solution providers, but also academics that are fundamental in bridging that gap and sort of creating that implementation from fundamental research to pragmatic AI. The obvious missing link here, and something that Scale AI also provides, is the ability to partner with small and medium enterprises. If we could move to the next slide. I think that, while the ecosystem model works well, there is still rather some untapped potential for small and medium businesses. Depending on the country, we know that these businesses constitute a large part of the economy, anywhere between 50 and 70% of the GDP. But these companies often lack the resources and the capabilities necessary to remain competitive, especially in a field like artificial intelligence. And this is where collaboration within the ecosystem at the local, national, but also international level can come in handy. So we haven't found, I think, the perfect solution to support small and medium businesses yet, but a number of ideas are being explored here in Canada and Quebec. One that comes to mind that we've been discussing with some of our contacts and clients is, for instance, at the sector association level, whereby we are looking to develop a solution that tackles, let's say, non-competitive use cases that could apply to a different number of companies within the sector association. And so we could think, for instance, about transportation for retail or manufacturing, or as some of the speakers earlier were mentioning, we could think about the ability to implement a solution that looks at predictive maintenance and how that could help support an entire sector that faces similar problems. An additional example would be by looking at how institutional investors could coordinate an AI effort to develop AI assets for their portfolio companies that have some sort of a supply chain link, right? And this would generate benefits for the companies themselves by improving the operational side of things, but also for the institutional investors because it would add to the valuation of those companies. So I think that the key to foster collaboration here is to find applications that are sufficiently generic or adaptable, and this is not an easy feat, but that generate clear benefits for all the stakeholders involved. Obviously, as we were discussing earlier, another element that is fundamental is data and the ability to share this in a secure way. That is something that is also critical to success. So in summary, I believe that collaboration at all levels, ranging from universities and academia to companies to clusters, but also international fora like the one that we have today, are critical to make AI work for all of us. And to make sure that the paradigm of human plus machine is able to work from everybody, from large companies to small companies, from governments to individuals, in order to tackle business problems, but also broader societal problems like Professor Bianchi was mentioning. So that sort of concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Cremonese. We've received a few questions for the panel. I don't know if we'll be able to get through all of them, but let me start with the first one. Can you provide some examples of concrete and successful collaborations and shared development at a project level? Professor Bianchi, if you would like to address this, do you want to start? So concrete and successful collaborations and shared development, but at a project. Can you turn on your microphone, Professor Bianchi?
Sorry.
Grazie.
Sorry. Yeah, in this year we have launched with the foundation and with the education different programs. One is all the data that we are receiving on meteo, because we have a lot of data on meteo, and they are extremely important for insurance, so that we have defined a number of indexes in order to define the risk connected with climate change and connected with the possible, for example, flooding. In this sense, the capacity to create these indexes is making a great contribution to the activity of insurance and also to the activities of all the companies working, taking the risk of possible effect of climate change. This is quite concrete. This is money and this is risk, business risk.
Is there another example that somebody would like to share?
Oh, sure. For instance, it's clear that all these elements are crucial for what Professor Zoccoli said before regarding agriculture. Consider that now agriculture is extremely important because we have to increase the quantity and the quality of food production. And this is using a lot of artificial intelligence and big data connected to the capacity to have a sort of forecast of the weather, also in a very restricted periods. Now we are calling that nowcasting. And on the other side, the quality of the production. We are working with a number of companies in order to increase the quality of the results. And also this is a very concrete response. Don't forget that we have also now organized with some university in the south of Italy, we are organizing a center on the prevention of natural disasters. And this is connected with the new machine that we have in Bologna. All these matters are very concrete because this means that we have to face the big problems of humanity, but these big problems of humanity are not future problems, are present problems, and they are impacting on the economy, directly on the economy.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, may I?
Professor Zoccoli,
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to add another example, is the IO-Twin project, is funded by European Community, is a 15 million project and is involving many different institutions and industry in different states. The idea is to exploit artificial intelligence and resources on high-performance computing in order to make optimization of the industrial process and make predictive maintenance. So the idea is that when you have an industrial plant and you have a sensor in this industrial plant, you can monitor how this industrial plant is functioning. And you can make a study on how these parameters are varying when you are just close a problem in the plant. So analyzing this data is possible to predict when the plant will be broken and then to make an intervention before. So we have many industries in Italy, but also in Spain, in Luxembourg, in France, which are this data, this sensor already installed, and we started a study and the optimization of the process and the predictive maintenance in these industrial plants. So I think it's a very concrete project, and this is will prove that this technology can help in this direction. So just to show to other possible industries that this is a way they can follow for the future.
Thank you. I'll move to the next question for the sake of time. How can small and medium businesses cooperate locally or internationally to embark on the AI journey? And maybe we can start with Mr. Cremonese.
Yes, thank you, Ida. So I think I was mentioning some of the opportunities before, and the question around small and medium businesses is not an easy one. It's one that we've been looking at for a number of years, and that a lot of countries and different government levels are trying to crack. I think that the forums that we have here, like this one, are absolutely fundamental because they give visibility to a number of players in the sector to the realm of the possible. Let's put it that way. Whether it's within artificial intelligence or big data, these are two elements that are critical to be able to maintain competitiveness. And I think that Italy and Canada share a lot of similarities with regards to the economic stratum of companies that exist, and also the challenges that we face. as well as the skill set. I remember from last year, we've met the delegation from Emilia-Romagna, and some of the things that are being set in place and in motion in Italy right now resemble closely what is being done in other parts of the world. So the ability to learn from each other and exchange is something that is fundamental. And then there are concrete avenues that we could explore, as I was mentioning a few earlier. But the idea is to try and find a common thread that we can then start pulling at together. And I think that the one important thing is to look for use cases when we talk about AI, is really use cases that are shared and a platform where data can be brought together. So I think of examples that link also to the weather forecasting. That's something that will impact a lot of different entities, whether large or small. But there's no single source of data available for that. Every company that wants to leverage external information on the weather will go and reach the raw data source and bring it to fruition in their data environment. So finding ways to facilitate access to important data like Infocamere is doing is something that could be actually really interesting.
Thank you. Any other comment from any other panelist? Because we've run out of time. So, Professor Bianchi.
No.
I thought I saw your hand up. Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time. Signor Vianello.
Yeah, very quickly. I was just
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, the Italian business register is not the only European register that is working on these items. At least even the French guys or the Norwegian guys are, experimenting and this kind of new techniques and technologies. And we are talking to each other. We are cooperating with each other because, we're all new to all these items. And this is the way to go forward, absolutely. And we all talk to the Commission as well, to the European Commission as well about this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you all for being here this morning. I think we could go on for a long time, but for the interest of time, we'll move on to our next speaker, who is here to highlight the many possibilities of cooperation between Quebec and Italy. Please welcome Marianna Simeone, the Quebec delegate to Italy. Marianna?
Thank you so much, Mrs. Teoli. Thank you so much, Mrs. Teoli. I hope you can hear me now. Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, secondo dove vi trovate nel mondo. Io vi parlo direttamente da Roma oggi, sono felicissima di essere con voi. J'aimerais d'abord et avant tout saluer la directrice générale de la Chambre de commerce Italiano-Canada, Madame Danielle Virone. Daniela, thank you so much for inviting me to this virtual edition of the Canada-Italy AI Forum. But above all, thank you for organizing these 3 days of exciting and valuable discussions with the main players of AI in Quebec and in Italy. I'm truly, truly delighted to be with you. My very special greetings to Silvia Costantini, Consul General of Italy in Montreal. Silvia, I can't wait to see you very shortly. And Hubert Bolduc, quel plaisir de voir ce matin, bien qu'en vidéo. Qui l'aurait cru lorsque tu quittais l'Italie le 24 février dernier, que le monde se préparait à vivre cette pandémie totalement. Professor Bianchi, buongiorno. It's been an intervento. I am very, very happy to hear International Nation Big Data and Artificial Intelligence for Human Development is eager to establish partnerships with our research institutes. You can count on the Quebec office in Italy to help you identify the right partners and to support you in your collaborations with Mr. Zoccoli, Mr. Vianello, Cremonese, fascinating presentations. Thank you so much for your insights, your perspectives, and for reminding us really of the many incredible opportunities big data offers to our public administrations. And last but not least, my greetings to Mrs. Cecilia Del Rey of the city of Florence, who will be addressing you next. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you will take a moment to tell you about the Quebec office in Italy and its role and relevance here. You may not know this, but Quebec has been active on the international scene since the days of Confederation. Our government began setting up offices in the early 40s in the USA and crossed the pond to Europe in 1961. Very quickly, key offices were established in Paris and then in London in 1962. And in 1965, Quebec opened its office in Milan, right here in Italy. Indeed, this year, we are celebrating our 55th anniversary. Now, interestingly, it was set up with an economic, a business, and an investment. Quebec realized back then the potential offered by the booming economy in Italy, and it saw the possibilities for cooperation and collaboration for our entrepreneurs in this European industrial country, which was rapidly rebuilding its economy and its infrastructures after World War II. Since the 60s, mandate of the Quebec office in Italy has expanded considerably. Now, in addition to business promotion here in Italy, we also promote Quebec's interests in the arts, in culture, in immigration, in education, and all those areas that are strategic that are priorities for our societies. Now, research in AI and all its applications in all the spheres of our everyday life clearly fall within these areas of collaboration. You may wonder how, in fact, we support joint research projects. You've spoken of collaborations this past half hour. Well, let me tell you. First of all, projects with a bilateral cooperation agreement between Italy and Quebec. The Italy-Quebec Sottocommissione Mista allows us to support our researchers' mobility. If they have joint projects, then we'll be there to support their mobility in the most, and we've been doing this for close to 30 years, since 1992. But in addition to its bilateral relations with Italy, as mentioned by Ambassador Tafuti, Quebec over the years has established key relationships with those Italian regions that share our common vision. It is a pleasure, really a pleasure, to see that these regions are all participating in this forum on AI. It was great to see Mr. Sala on Wednesday of the Regione Lombardia deliver the opening remarks. You know, Quebec and Lombardia have been working together for years, and we are by a research and innovation agreement. Together, we're developing new projects in the districts, and we are very excited with the work we're recently doing with the Milano Innovation District Mind. Then there's the very dynamic region of Emilia-Romagna. As Mrs. Salomoni mentioned in her address, Emilia-Romagna and Quebec are in constant dialogue these days. We are working on AI applications in the fields of health, of education, of mobility, but to name a few. Now, just next Wednesday, as a matter of fact, researchers from Quebec and from Emilia-Romagna, including our chief scientist, will be discussing AI and mobility at the Triple Helix Association Summit. And now I'd like to turn to the Councillor of the City of Florence and its magnificent region of Tuscany, Mrs. Cecilia Del Rey. Mrs. Del Rey, we've noticed all the work Tuscany is leading in smart, and you be sure that Quebec will be on attendance at your upcoming Expo Move trade show next May. Now, we could not miss this very important event, considering Quebec is at the forefront in North America when it comes to clean energy and to the electrification of transport. Just this week, our government announced the plan for a green economy, as well as the development plan for the critical and strategic minerals, and that is in addition to the Quebec strategy on the future of battery production and battery development. And there in his opening remarks, the Quebec research and innovation ecosystem on AI is vast, and it includes many, many organizations and many groups. It's unique in its composition. Now, typically back home in Quebec, you have the world of research working and collaborating with the public and the private sectors. You have students, researchers, CEOs, investors, all engaged in advancing research and innovation, knowing far well that innovation is the key to competitiveness, to prosperity, to a better society, and to battling those major international challenges that the world faces today. This makes Quebec, as mentioned by the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, Mr. Di Stefano, the natural partner in Canada for Italian firms. In fact, the most important challenges of our generation, be it climate change, health, food security, cybersecurity, these challenges are all tied to science. And AI is at the heart of finding and implementing solutions to these challenges. Now, if there's one takeaway lesson that the current COVID crisis has taught us, is that a colossal world crisis requires both concerted efforts and research collaborations from many different countries. For this reason, before leaving the screen to Mrs. Del Rey and later to the Consul General of Italy, Silvia Costantini, allow me to once again thank the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada for this outstanding initiative. The Italy-Canada Forum on AI is the perfect place to start strengthening our ties, and Montreal is definitely the best place to welcome this forum. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Marianna. Our next speaker is indeed hailing from the city of Florence. Unfortunately, Cecilia Del Rey is busy with very pressing issues now occurring in the city, but we do have Gianluca Vannuccini, Director of Technological Infrastructure for the city, talking to us about how it has become a model smart city.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. And on behalf of my administration, I really thank you so much, and also Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada for having invited us. I also bring my deputy mayor greetings and apologies for not being here this afternoon. I'm the IT manager of the city of Florence in Italy. Florence is an average city, but we have 4,000 employees, and we are offering hundreds of digital services to our citizens. And of course, Florence had, before COVID, a very, very important presence of tourists in the city. And now we are in the middle, of course, of the pandemic crisis. And we are also using technology and big data to address this period. In our department, in our municipality, we started the smart city governance model long ago. We started in 2015 with a very interesting assessment of all the smart city initiatives that were performed by our public utilities that are mainly managing smart city services. And then after this assessment, initial benchmark, it started the collaboration framework that it's our strength in this moment, because all the main public service providers, organizations, governments in the city are now collaborating with the yearly action plan for sharing data, sharing digital infrastructures, for example, public Wi-Fi networks, digital ID, digital payments. And this framework has boosted a lot many other international collaborations. On top of this framework, we developed different international collaborations, all based on data. And also, I would say, all based on smart mobility, which is one of the main topics for citizens, no? Being able to move fastly and with a good quality of mobility within the city. So we started with a very interesting participation in a US program called What Works Cities with Bloomberg Philanthropies and Johns Hopkins University by starting an interesting project on usage of data and open data and public engagement on the analysis of cycling incidents. So people going by bike in the city, analyzing big data and optimizing bike lanes in order to reduce incidents. Then we won a very interesting resilience project, Horizon 2020, with Athens, which gave us the opportunity to use big data in the city together with the University of Florence in order to improve the resilience of our urban transport systems. And now we are in the middle of the Lighthouse project Replicate with Bristol and San Sebastian, which gave us the opportunity to develop, together with the University of Florence, a big data platform, which is now live since 2018, and which is now, let's say, the city data platform, on which we are building a lot of other processes, such as the Smart City Control Room, which is a place where all the city public utilities will monitor, which will be launched in the early months of 2021, and where all public utilities will be able to monitor public services together and with on top of a big data platform. So we have other ongoing collaborations with other bodies. Now, in this period, we are working a lot on digital competencies, because we think that using data and leveraging data is very useful for internal processes, but also it can be very useful to improve competencies of citizens, professional, startups, companies in the city, always basing on data and the data exposure and publication in open data. So we are working a lot on this field. And so I conclude by saying that we are very, very open to collaborations with other cities and Quebec startups, organizations, and to exchange ideas, approaches, and also innovation. I heard a lot about the usage of AI and big data for improving. We are very interested in that field. We still are missing competencies on the field of AI, so we are very, very interested in growing up our skills and in also bringing our big data platform to apply machine learning and new AI techniques in order to improve our city processes and also the public services that we offer to citizens. So again, thank you very much for having invited us, and also again, greetings on behalf of my Deputy Mayor, Cecilia Del Rico. Thank you very much.
Grazie, Signor Vannuccini. The next section of our conference will focus on our rapporteurs, who will present the key points from the workshops they attended and comment on the implications for the future. We have three rapporteurs this morning. Maurizio Sobrero is professor at the University of Bologna and will cover life sciences and healthcare. Pietro Leo is chief scientist at IBM Italia and will report on logistics and industry 4.0. And Alexandra Dawson is professor at the John Molson School of Business here in Montreal and will report on smart mobility. We will begin the session with Signor Sobrero.
Good afternoon, bonsoir, buonasera a tutti. It is my pleasure to be with you today and to have the honor of wrapping up what was a very compelling set of presentation in two lively sessions dedicated to the role of AI in life sciences and healthcare. The fields covered were very varied. They moved the patient side from testing, diagnostic, treatment, rehabilitation, and of course, beginning with prevention. On the industry side, there were presentations engaging the pharma and drug industries, instrument producers, healthcare providers, patient-integrated services, and different value services that are associated with the modern providing of cures and support along the different stages. So it is very hard to even pretend to summarize such a vast amount of comments. Let me just try to give you a few takeaways that, in my view, represent also some elements that could guide future collaboration among the different partners involved. First of all, there is the quite widespread understanding that we are talking about a fundamental right, individual health and well-being. And this is fundamental even more for fair and inclusive societies. So to make sure that societies in the future can bear the increasing costs that assuring universal healthcare would need, technologies are crucial. And are so crucial that it was very clear from all of the presentation that without their support, it would be impossible to achieve the target that the two countries have clearly in their mind. So this is why we might rethink the role of public expenses, which is actually quite crucial in the provision of all the services, regardless of different institutional arrangement, as a dedicated element that is not only able to provide a universal benefit, but also to increase productivity. So in a way, a very important takeaway from the sessions was that if we invest in technologies, we can increase both productivities and well-being without having them to clash, like sometimes is the case. The second point is about, of course, the role of the peculiarities of these new technologies. We are part of the second artificial intelligence business forum. So clearly the focus is on all those techniques that we dump inside this big basket of the artificial intelligence term. What do all these technologies have in common? Well, actually, they have two fundamental elements. They require a lot of data, and they require an extensive computing power. So these elements seem quite trivial in themselves, but are actually crucial. Just to give you a sense, during one of the presentation, it was mentioned that the project involving the study of the human brain is in the need of something around 10 petabytes of data just to represent the images of all the samples that are being taken. Just to have a sense of what a petabyte is, it's just a huge, huge number. Just imagine that you take 4,000 pictures every day during all your life. Even the most social-oriented of all of us taking pictures every day would hardly reach that target, and then multiply this number by 10. Then you probably will be close to 10 petabytes, but not so much so either. So data in large numbers and also computational capacity. Now, both elements, both data and computational capacity, have been very important to build independent business opportunities and make the economy grow. But let's now take a different perspective that came out of all the talks. That is that we need to make sure that those elements maybe evolve. As much as the internet architecture was designed to operate as a non-appropriable infrastructure, probably it is important right now to consider in what term we can work with respect to data and computing power to combine and, let's say, make possible the simultaneous occurrence of opportunities for the business and institutional control for the general public. This means that probably we need to revise the concept of what we call public goods and how to balance, again, the business opportunity with the distribution of results and benefit to the whole society. With this respect, there is a great sensitivity in both countries for the relevance of these issues and how this could be tackled. To give you a practical example about this, we have been talking in one of the sessions extensively about the opportunity to have data federation among hospitals as a possible alternative, as well as the different examples that in the region of Emilia-Romagna and in Lombardy are currently being undertaken by public institutions to make sure that health records can be both of extreme use for the business opportunity that will improve cures and opportunities for the patient and the safety of the patient data. Third point is the role of trust. Now, I think, I mentioned to you the data, you're probably not surprised. We are overwhelmed by this term, data is the new oil. But actually, probably, as my colleague Andrea Renda from the Center for Economic Policy in Brussels usually says, trust is the new oil. We need the trust of the patients who need to share their data. We need the trust of the doctor who need to access the information to cure the patients, knowing that this will not be biased. We need the trust of the public authorities on the good faith of all the business partners involved. We need the trust of all those in each other. So trust not come from free, though, and needs investment, dedicated investment. There were different presentations offering us insights, for example, on how to engage patients in the data delivery and the data aggregation, and at the same time on how to make sure that all the members of this very complex system are part together in building individual pieces of what will join at the end as a common effort in reaching the trust that is needed to pursue all those results. Finally, let me stress, by being a member of an academic community, another important element that emerged quite clearly in all the presentations. The health professions are evolving extremely rapidly. In the past, we might have been, happy enough to make sure that our doctors were competent in the life sciences and the disciplines that were clearly, the basis of their usual training. Right now, it is not enough. The amount of knowledge coming from engineering disciplines, from information technology disciplines, from design disciplines are incredibly growing at a pace that is hardly, bearable for anybody. Now, what is the outcome of this? Necessarily the need to expand the collaborations, the profiles, the role, and the opportunities for institutions that normally never hired certain kind of professionals to include them in their charter. This is also a challenge for educational institutions who have the imperative to embed this evidence in the educational programs and anticipate the need for those type of professionals. Doctors and health professionals at all stages have always been practicing their activities in collaboration and relying on the role of teamwork. Now the teams must really be more interdisciplinary than in the past, and this interdisciplinarity should be built from the beginning and from scratch into the curriculum. It is not an easy task. It is certainly challenging, but it's also fascinating. And both institutions, both sides and all the different institutions participated in the two events that I had the pleasure of attending and to report to you, were really committed to this side as well. So I think these are my takeaway, and I'm looking forward to be able to further explore them in the future events. Hopefully, as many of us have said, resorting again to meeting each other and exchanging ideas as we did in the past two events.
Thank you, Mr. Sobrero. Our next rapporteur is Pietro Leo, who will report on logistics and industry.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending to this conference and to organize and to invite me to make a wrap-up of those sections. So I'm going to report about the logistics and industry 4.0. One of the key messages emerged from the both logistic and the industry 4.0 workshops is that COVID-19 is considered in both areas as an accelerator opportunity to apply digital transformation and produce concrete and tangible results that can impact in both areas. In this context, of course, artificial intelligence, jointly with other exponential technology like Internet of Things, cloud computing, blockchain, play a relevant role. With this accelerator opportunity, and why this accelerator opportunity is relevant? The state of the art in applying such kind of technologies in logistics as well as manufacturing is nowadays simply modest, especially compared to what happened in other sectors. For instance, during the workshop, it was mentioned by a speaker that only 20% of the manufacturing company activated the relevant network interconnection project between current manufacturing production machine and ICT. And of course, this is the prerequisite to apply any sort of much more higher complex project like artificial intelligence one. Another interesting fact mentioned during the workshop was the fact that just no more than 6% of the manufacturing companies really activated relevant AI initiatives. So on one side, on the other side was an interesting talk about PricewaterhouseCoopers that referred an analysis about the logistics sector and how reacted this sector to the COVID. So, of course, this sector was quite resilient to the first wave of the emergency. And the second important observation from this analysis was that 90% of respondents affirmed that the importance of the digital technology and the willing to activate a transformation journey in the next future. So before COVID-19, this percentage was quite low. A second key message emerged from the workshop is the importance to recognize and lower at least or eliminate ideally the barriers to access to AI and the new digital technology from traditional companies and especially from small and medium enterprises. Special need to cope with this difficulty has been recognized in both workshops is the need to have technology facilitators, let me say. The role of the facilitator is to lower the access to the new technology and AI in particular. This need is quite important, of course, for small companies that do not have enough money, for example, to access to new sophisticated technology. A number of barriers have been mentioned to access to AI, for example, lack of skills, knowledge, and not a clear possibility to demonstrate the ROI, cost of the project, difficulty to integrate new technology and legacy technology, for example. As technology facilitators, it was mentioned the need to have around companies powerful territory business ecosystems, let me say, that could help companies, and especially small and medium enterprises, in accessing and experimenting AI, including the possibility to experiment, for example, AI at a low risk by piloting advanced technology in living labs or shared demo center, for example. It was, for example, presented a very nice presentation from the BIREX consortium located in Bologna, that build exactly this kind of facility. From this point of view, all regions involved into the workshop, such as, of course, Quebec, Regione Emilia, but also Regione Lombardia, are leading territory and the best territory ecosystem in their respective countries in the area of AI. This was demonstrated by a number of programs and initiatives available in terms of strong presence of AI research community, for example, supporting training, knowledge transfer programs, in the presence of focused cross-company collaboration initiative, for example. Finally, important story is also the availability of public funding to support and sustain business opportunity into the new area. From this perspective, during the workshop, were described the opportunity available in Quebec for those that would like to invest in that area. Quite interesting option. Finally, during the workshop, a number of specific projects, initiatives were shared that see the application of AI in a number of contexts and could provide a good best practice, for example, or inspiration, of project inspiration, as was mentioned during the conference before, even during this session. It is valuable to mention, for instance, projects that aim to digitalize the activity inside ports from the logistic point of view and digitalize form of relations among entities and parties that happen in such complex places, like, for example, custom activities. We learned an initiative from Port of Ravenna, Port of Trieste, and also an interesting application from the Port of Montreal, able to analyze vessel information with the natural language engines to prioritize the delivery of material useful to contrast COVID. Operation optimization was the key element in both areas, and the key application area of AI that includes, for example, the use of a computer vision and natural language processing to support visual inspection, for example, tasks, or quality controls related to product or human tasks. Finally, to conclude, a very important trajectory, it was highlighted by the workshop, is the trajectory is to explore the usage of digital twins and virtual reality in both areas. For the Industry 4.0, the key passage is the need of application that interconnect the legacy factory machines and the new decision support system with AI. So last thought, a key message was also not to, interesting, was not to replace a task with a digital counterpart, rather letting machines and humans cooperate to achieve a more safe, secure, and sustainable way to things. As a last thought, important to mention also from this the green perspective with respect to the green and sustainability, this KPI is considered foundational to promote such co-working need between humans and machines in both contexts, Industry 4.0 as well as logistics. So more or less, these are the key elements, the key discussion point during the two workshops.
Thank you. Very interesting, Mr. Leon. And now to report on smart mobility is Alexandra Dawson. Alexandra?
Thank you, Ida.
Perfect.
You can hear me?
No, I cannot.
Can you hear me, Ida?
Yes, I hear you now. I did not hear you before. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Ida?
Yeah. Yes, I hear you now.
Okay.
So proceed. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
No, it's okay.
Thank you very much. Workshop on mobility. In my talk, I will summarize the presentations, identify the main objectives of smart mobility that came out from the panel, and 3 key opportunities and 3 key challenges going forward. We had 6 very interesting presentations addressing different aspects of smart mobility. One thing that struck me is that most presentations were about cars. So we heard about Netlift, which is a platform for car sharing, the Bologna Smart City project to reduce congestion caused by cars, the 5G car project in Emilia-Romagna. One of the projects, Small and Medium City Quebec, is about sharing mobility. And we heard about a technology to protect pedestrians from vehicle collisions. Of course, we have the presentations on air mobility and drones presented by the Politecnico di Milano, and the project in the small and medium-sized cities also addresses other aspects of smart mobility, such as autonomous shuttles for public transportation and snow removal. So I think the fact that a lot of these projects are about cars is linked in part to the difficulties that players in the mobility arena have in collaborating with cities. And this was something that came out during the Q&A, and I will talk about this a bit later. But it's also interesting that it ties in with the rise in individual mobility due to the COVID pandemic, as we also heard during the Q&A. Obviously, these projects were started before the pandemic, but it's interesting to see that we're seeing this trend, and it'll be interesting to see how they affect the future of mobility. Moving on to objectives, this was a common thread across all the presentations. The objectives for smart mobility are livable and safe, convenience, so offering faster transportation options, sustainability, greener solutions, affordability, cheaper transportation options. Of course, we also need to respond to changing traveler preference. Individuals are asking for greater focus on personalized, flexible, end-to-end solutions. Businesses will have to build these models that are economically viable for the long term. And of course, underlying objective is continued and increased economic growth and profitability. Now, let me move on to 3 opportunities that I think emerged from the panel. The first one has to do with the market. Obviously, the smart mobility market is very attractive due to its sheer size and growth. The United Nations predicts that 60% of the global population will live in cities by 2030. 1 in 3 people will live in cities with at least 1 million inhabitants. So, of course, more and more people are living in cities of all sizes. They're moving across them. So it's important that we have improved mobility. Of course, this requires changes among users. And the panel yesterday talked about the challenge of changing mindset, educating the population. We can assume this might be easier with younger consumers, millennials, who are likely to be more willing to adopt new technologies, switch their current preferred mode of travel. But of course, this will become more and more mainstream. So this is the first opportunity about the market. Second opportunity is about industry structure. Now, we heard from a diverse stakeholders within smart mobility during the panel. And of course, the number of companies operating in the smart mobility space will grow, and they will become more diverse. So in some cases, there still is the need for regulation. We heard yesterday, for example, in air mobility and drones. But in other cases, the future will bring more deregulation, so liberalization of transport, including ride sharing. And so this will bring more diversity in terms of the actors within the smart mobility arena. New business models, companies offering, for example, innovative ancillary services that we don't see now, such as customized travel planning, smart mobility surveillance, onboard people matching, so social networking. So this is the second opportunity. The third one, the third opportunity I want to talk about is spillover effects into other industries. And for example, real estate industry. One of the panelists yesterday mentioned mobility being a real estate issue when talking about parking. And of course, as cities get smarter, mobility gets smarter, the value of urban property will change. So areas that are not currently well served by conventional public transport will see their value increase as there is more on-demand minibuses, eventually autonomous cars. Areas that are currently very congested and polluted will become more livable. There will be new opportunities for investment and development. So of course, this will increase their value. Not all areas will benefit. We heard yesterday about the challenges that the project in Bologna is faced because of the way the city is built. It's an old city, so buildings or areas that are hard to retrofit with smart features may become less attractive. So these are the three opportunities that I see: the market, the changing industry structure, and spillover effects. Let me move on to three key challenges. The first challenge I see has to do with industry structure. Of course, I highlighted the opportunity, but it will also be a challenge. There's a very large base of interested parties. So eventually, it is likely that we'll see consolidation and shakeout, as has occurred in other digital ecosystems, for example, search engines and social networks. So the challenge here is that some companies will disappear, but at the same time, there's the other side of the coin, which is this offers opportunities for others to take on the leadership role early. So who will it be? Will it be the transport operators and car manufacturers? Will it be the digital giants? Will it be the tech startups? Of course, this will vary by country. For example, countries such as France and Germany, where there's vast in the transport and vehicle manufacturers, those incumbents may be more likely, but of course, they will have to be open to disruption in innovation. In any case, there are opportunities for collaboration, as we also heard this morning, among actors. And for sure, innovative startups, they're more suited for offering the ancillary services that I was talking about before. The second challenge is about the skills that will be required within the businesses. We heard yesterday in the Smart Mobility workshop that technology is not the problem. Technology exists, except for 5G, which is still being developed. What is lacking is having people on board in terms of mindset and education. We heard this yesterday. And the other aspect is also businesses have to interact with the cities. So they need to understand the local city context, how local government makes decisions. And yesterday, during the Q&A, we heard cities are risk averse. City government officials are often elected. They don't want to lose the election. There was also a question yesterday about what professional profiles will be needed by business for smart mobility beyond engineers. And so I think the challenge here, and again, obviously this can become an opportunity, is businesses will have to have multidisciplinary teams, add urban planners, designers, sociologists, other specialists. And of course, the solution is to form alliances, work cooperatively with other providers, and this will be a way to set industry standards. The final challenge I want to talk about is governance, because I think we need to talk about not only about smart mobility, but also about smart transition. This is not just a technological change, it's also a social transition. So we need to talk about the benefits, which are undoubtedly significant, but also governance in terms of any negative externalities of change. So concerns about data privacy, cybersecurity. We also need to think about controlled transition of labor market due to automation. And I think we also need to be aware of the logic underlying how we govern smart mobility and learn from past mistakes. One thing that came out in the workshop yesterday was the issue of data. We need data, but it's not just a question of quantity, it's a question of quality. What data are we collecting? And I want to mention two things relating to smart mobility. First of all, lower socioeconomic groups in general spend more of their income on transportation costs. In the US, households of color spend more of their income on transportation transportation, and this is a big deal because transportation costs are the second largest expense for a household after housing. And the second example is World Bank showed that women represent the largest share of public transport users around the world. They use public transportation more than men, primarily for employment, childcare, education, health. They make more trips than men, shorter commutes, take more non-work trips, whereas men tend to drive more. So women and men have different mobility needs and patterns. And this was also come out in a recent book called Invisible Women. And so this final challenge is about smart transition, governance and smart mobility, which needs to draw on data. And so I guess this final challenge that I want to talk about is about the data we collect that will drive the governance so that we can have smart mobility thanks to the benefits of technology, but mobility that can also be more inclusive for all users. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you all for the synthesis you've provided on very broad and complex topics, and thank you for the insights that you brought to the subject. Thank you. Our next speaker is Silvia Costantini, the Consul General for Italy in Montreal. Ms. Costantini.
Eccomi qua. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Bon pomeriggio a chi è in collegamento dall'Italia. Pour moi, un grand plaisir conclure ces 3 jours de travaux de la 2e édition du Forum d'affaires Italie-Canada que j'ai trouvé extrêmement captivant. J'en veux remercier la Chambre de commerce italienne au Canada pour l'organisation. Daniela et l'équipe, vous avez fait un travail vraiment formidable. Félicitations. Les oratrices et orateurs ont été vraiment d'envergure. J'étais ravie d'entendre autant de professionnels de niveau provenant du Canada et de l'Italie, de bâtir ensemble sur le futur d'un secteur si stratégique comme celui-ci de l'intelligence artificielle et sur les possibles façons de collaborer. As His Excellent Senior Messenger mentioned in his speech during the opening web conference on emerging policies and trends last Wednesday, the first edition of the forum was only over a year ago. The second edition, albeit in digital form, has gathered a wide range of speakers debating how technology linked to artificial intelligence is driving change across all areas of society. We have seen that AI has a major role to play in how we face future challenges, including in perspective in the fight also against the pandemic. I applaud the choice of the sectors which have channeled our exchange from life sciences to healthcare, from logistics to industry 4.0 and smart mobility. All of them are interrelated and necessary to build a better environment for our societies. We have not only been talking about promoting business, which is perhaps the most relevant task of the institution I lead. We have worked in order to enhance the collaboration between Quebec and, of course, Emilia-Romagna, as well as Lombardy, with the purpose of promoting and securing a higher quality of life for our citizens. What AI means for Italian institutions has been clearly demonstrating also during this business forum, graced by the presence of a member of the Italian government. Honorable Mario Di Stefano, as well by representative of institutions hailing from different regions. Of course, the 2 main ones, which are Emilia-Romagna and Lombardy, that have been recalled, but also from the cities of Firenze and Trieste. This political and institutional presence shows that Italy harbors strong consensus on the need to adopt policies aimed at promoting the research and the development in this domain, and aimed at reliable, resilient, and anthropocentric AI. I'm not going to reiterate nor make a reference to any of the initiatives mentioned or presented by my illustrious predecessor at this forum, and I thank actually the 3 rapporteurs for the synthesis work that they've done. I will instead focus these closing remarks on the excellent, extraordinary collaboration and cooperation between Canada and Quebec on the one side, and Italy together with Emilia-Romagna, as well as other regions on the other, in the specific area of joint collaboration. We know that 2019 initial edition of the forum paved the way we are now walking. on, and was spearheaded by the B7 multi-stakeholder conference on AI held here in Montreal in December 2018. There, a solid Italian delegation led by our Ministry of Economic Development brought together actors from the public sectors, universities and research institutes, as well as private companies. Many of them belong to the group of experts which has elaborated the Italian strategy for artificial intelligence, mentioned by His Excellency the Ambassador. It is a strategic plan allowing Italy to start a phase of economic, social, and environmental renaissance, marked by a focus on sustainability and by the digital transformation of the institutional and socio-economic business of the country. The contacts created in all these different occasions, and I thank really the Chamber of Commerce for having helped and eased them, have been particularly useful in deepening, widening, and strengthening relations between Italian and Canadian stakeholders. In addition, many Italian professors, researchers, and students are active Italian ambassadors on AI by virtue of working or studying here in Montreal. In my first year and a half of tenure, I have had the pleasure to meet several of them. They're amazing. They're always brilliantly embody our extraordinary Italian way of living in a city that proudly hosts Canada AI Cluster, placing Montreal at the forefront of the developments in AI technologies and applications in strategic areas worldwide. Despite the pandemic, the basis for a reciprocally beneficial cooperation in this strategic domain have been reinforced this way. I'm very, very satisfied with the results achieved. The perspectives are exciting, and I see a very bright and fruitful future ahead of us. I could perhaps only venture to suggest a concrete contribution for the next edition of the forum. So Danielle, bear with me if I suggest saying that perhaps we could devote specific focus on the 6 areas identified in a national Italian strategy on AI, which is manufacturing, robotics, services, health and finance, transportation, agri-food and energy, aerospace and defense, and I'm also the Italian permanent representative to ICAO, then public administration, and finally culture, creativity and digital humanities. Encore une fois, je tiens à remercier la Chambre de commerce italienne au Canada, vous toutes et tous, et je souhaite de vous rencontrer encore bientôt de visu. Professor Bianchi, Marianna, non vedo l'ora di rivedervi. Grazie ancora a tutti e a tutti in Italia e non mi resta che dire alla prossima. Donc, to the next edition. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Signora Costantini. And now the last word of the conference goes to Daniele Violone, Executive Director of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada.
Bonjour, good morning, buon pomeriggio to all, depending where you are. The Italian Chamber of Commerce in Canada is indeed very proud to have organized the second Canada-Italy Business Forum on AI during a global pandemic. We're particularly honored that so many leading experts, researchers, scientists, visionaries, and entrepreneurs from Canada and Italy readily accepted our invite to take part in the forum using virtual technology, of course. In total, we had 65 speakers. Yes, 65 speakers during the past 3 days. It is thanks to them, with their great talent, know-how, expertise, that we were able to host a truly international event, rich in content, and from what we hear, very promising for future collaborations. In fact, we just heard from the rapporteur that gave us their insights into important takeaways to develop a roadmap. I have to tell you that having listened in to the discussions, there was so much positive energy bursting at the round tables in spite of the global crisis. And the unanimous consensus was that collaboration is the key to the future. Indeed, the Chamber sincerely hopes that this forum serves as a hub to develop and strengthen collaborations. As you know, Quebec and Italy share close bonds. In fact, the Quebec government celebrates 55 years of its presence in Italy this year, symbolizing the importance of this relationship, as the Quebec delegate in Rome, Marianna Simeone, highlighted to us a few minutes ago. In its role to encourage bilateral business exchange, I'm talking about the Chamber, and providing consulting services to stakeholders looking to expand internationally, the Chamber will continue to accompany and guide them as they pursue the international strategy. I would like to thank all of our distinguished keynote speakers, our panelists, our moderators, and our rapporteur for shining the light on endless possibilities, opportunities, and challenges of artificial intelligence and innovation. I also want to thank all of our participants who joined us from Italy, Canada, and beyond. You were more than 750 people to have taken part in the forum over the past 3 days. And I would like to extend our gratitude to our generous partners and collaborators, both here and in Italy, for contributing to organize such a high caliber event. Special thanks to Emilia-Romagna region, the region of Lombardy, and RBC Royal Bank of Canada. We're also very grateful for the support of the Embassy of Italy to Canada, the Consulate General of Italy in Montreal, the Embassy of Canada in Italy. On a personal note, I would like to thank Ruggera and the rest of the team, as well as the close collaborator, Ida, for their dedication and professionalism to make this forum such a success. We look forward to welcoming you all next year for the 3rd edition of our Canada-Italy Business Forum on AI. So in 2021, what can I say now? Goodbye, à l'année prochaine, arrivederci. Thank you, grazie mille. Merci bien.